What's up everybody, it's Amaya. So today I'm going to be showing you how to go from this to this. I'm going to be showing you a Demi Lovato-inspired prom makeup tutorial. This is also going to be kind of a how-to smoky eye tutorial, so it's kind of a bunch of different tutorials all wrapped in one. I love Demi Lovato and I love her makeup style. She always has these beautiful smoky eyes and this gorgeous glowing blushing skin, which I think is perfect for prom. Also, shout out to Abby from Abby's makeup account for giving me this idea. She is a new Instagram account. Go follow her. She is awesome. I love what she's doing and I love that she decided to start her own Instagram and post makeup on it, and I think she is going to go very far. So I will have her account linked below. Go check it out. It's awesome. And yeah, I'm gonna be sharing with you guys a bunch of tips and tricks today, so let's get right into it. Okay, so I do already have my brows done. I just did them real quick. I do have a brow tutorial. I will try to remember to link it down below. If not, it is on my channel. It's a pretty recent video, but I feel like brows are very personal, so for you on your prom day, do them how you want. If you are someone who likes a very subtle brow, go very subtle. If you're someone who likes a more dramatic brow, go dramatic. If you like how it looks, that's all that matters. Of course, you want to start with a fresh, clean face. So don't wash your face in the morning and then wait to do your prom makeup until like 3 in the afternoon. Wash your face maximum of like 45 minutes before you start your makeup. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to be doing is going in with my e.l.f. Daily Hydration Moisturizer. You always want to make sure that your skin is nice and hydrated before you go in with makeup, especially if you have gotten like a spray tan or something like that. Tanning will definitely dry out your skin, so you want to make sure that you're nice and hydrated so you don't have any flakiness. Even if you are oily, you want to make sure to moisturize because having nice hydration in your face will help keep your oils at bay. Now I'm going to go in with a little bit of lip balm just to hydrate my lips. Next, I'm going in with primer. I like to do my primer before my eyes so it sinks into the skin. It'll help your makeup last longer and it'll just help the primer stick to your face more. So I'm going to be using the Benefit Professional. I love this because it's a nice pore filling primer and it's going to give you flawless skin for pictures, and it'll fill in all your pores and all that sorts of stuff. Then I'm going to be going in with another primer. I really have been loving the Hourglass Veil Primer. This is a little sample as well. I've been loving this primer because I feel like it makes my makeup last so well and it keeps my skin looking nice and flawless. I do have dry skin and it works great for me, and I've also heard people that have oily skin who works well for them. And then the last priming step we're going to do is prime our eyes. I'm going to use the Wet n Wild Photo Focus Eyeshadow Primer. It's my favorite eyeshadow primer, drugstore or high-end. I think it's absolutely awesome. Then I'm just going to be going in with a little bit of concealer. This is going to help make sure that any of our veins or discoloration in our eyelids are covered up. We have a nice flawless base for our eyeshadow. Next, I'm going to be going into my Milani Everyday Eyes Basic Matte Palette. I'm going to be taking this white cream shade right here to set my lids. You want to make sure that you set your primer and concealer down so that doesn't crease and make your eyeshadows crease and make it all wear away. So in the pictures of Demi that I was looking at to get inspiration for this look, I noticed that she always has this like super like sharp yet still kind of hazy cat eye. So for me to be able to achieve that, I'm going to use some Scotch tape on the outer corners of my eyes. I just took some, put it on the back of my hand to reduce the stickiness. I'm just lining it up with my lower lash line and setting it down. Not going like too far of an angle up, but kind of going more like out. Okay, so for today, I'm going to be using a combination of the Huda Beauty Smoky Obsessions palette and the Milani Basic Mattes palette. So I'm going to start off with the Milani palette. I'm going to go in with this shade right here, and it's a really light transition shade. I'm going to use this. This is going to help all of our other eyeshadows blend really smoothly on our eye, and it's going to give us a nice base for the rest of our crease colors. So next, I'm going into the Huda Beauty palette. I'm going to be taking this shade right here. It's just a warm brown, and I'm just taking this on the same fluffy brush and blending it into the crease. I'm starting at the tape and coming up. Now I'm going to be switching over to the Milani palette, and I'm going to be taking this kind of orangey shade and just very, very lightly applying this into the crease, kind of where we applied everything else, but again, just very lightly. I don't want this look to be too orangey and too warm, but I also don't want it to be too cool. I'm kind of going for a nice neutral smoky look. Okay, now we're getting into the fun part. So I'm going to go into the Milani palette, and I'm going to take a mixture of this shade right here and that guy right there, these two, which are just kind of neutral slash slightly cool browns. I'm going to take this on a smaller fluffy brush. So I'm just going to take these two colors and start in the outer corner of my eye and start to blend this slowly into the crease. I want to keep this lower than I kept the other shades, but I also want to make sure that this gets into the whole crease. Then I'm going back in with that fluffy brush and just blending everything out. So I'm transitioning back into the Huda palette, and I'm going to take these two shades right here. Then I'm going to take that second brush that we used, dip it into those two colors, and start to kind of blend them out. Then going back in with the fluffy brush and making sure everything is very seamless. Then I'm just going back in with that dark brown shade from the Huda palette and adding a little bit more smokiness. So we're going to start from the outer corner again and blend that into the crease. Okay, now here comes the part where everyone starts to kind of freak out and get a little stressed out. And that's the black eyeshadow. I'm going to go in with this black on a very small brush. This is a detail crease brush from e.l.f. I'm going to start with a very light hand packing this on the outer corner. Not trying to blend anything yet, I'm literally just packing. Then I'm going to go in with that third blending brush we used, the first one we used to apply the darker colors, and just very lightly start buffing out the edges of the black. Then I'm going back in with that second brush, the small fluffy brush, and again, blending everything out. So I want to make sure that the black gets on the whole eye and not just the outer corner, but I don't want to just pack it on there and hope for the best. I want to do this gradually and slowly. And then again, like always, fluffy brush after each step. You really want to make sure that you're blending in this cat eye area too with no additional product, just blending out the shadows that are going there, because you don't want this to look super like sharp like eyeliner. You want it to just be nice and soft. Turn your head different angles, see what it looks like. If something's looking a little choppy or unblended, just fix it. Okay, now going back in with that tiny brush and just deepening up the black closer to the lash line. I'm gonna bring it to about halfway to my lid. As you can see, I'm just trying to slowly bring it towards the lid of the eye without actually adding any additional product. Okay, so now for the moment of truth, we're going to peel off the tape. Okay, so first initial reaction, you're gonna be like, okay. Don't worry, we'll get there, I promise you. Okay, so now I'm going to go in with a little bit of a lid shade. You could just leave it black like this, but I noticed in a lot of her looks, Demi just has like a little bit of sparkle just on the very inner corners of the lid. It's not typically a really light color, it's just a nice sparkly shade. So I'm going to be taking some of my NYX glitter primer. You want to do this whenever you're using any sort of glitter or glittery eyeshadow or even just metallic shadow in general. I'm just tapping this ever so slightly in the very inner corner where we didn't put any product. So I'm going into the Huda palette, and I'm going to take just the teeniest little bit of this silver shadow right here. Like as you can see, there's barely anything on my finger. And I'm just going to tap this right there in the inner area. And you can see how much product actually came off on that. Then I'm going to go in with a little bit of Paisley Super Shock Shadow. This is just basically pure glitter, as you can see, just pure glitter. And I'm just going to lightly add that to the lid. This is going to create kind of that like messy, blown out sort of look. And this is kind of what you're going to use to blend the silver with the matte black. So you can see it looks very like seamless, like it just goes from like black to gray to silver on the inside. And you could change this silver and do a gold or a pink or a bronze, literally any shade that you want. Okay, so now I'm going to go in with a makeup wipe and just wipe up any extra fallout that we have and just kind of start to make sure that our lines match before we soften them up. So now here comes the trick to making this look not so ridiculous. I'm going to go in with a face powder. Whatever face powder you have that matches you works. And I'm going to take some sort of buffer brush like this, and I'm just going to start buffing that harsh line with the face powder. And I'm also going to kind of just follow it in the direction that it's going. I'm going to go up into the brow a little bit. But just start to kind of soften that line. So as you can see the difference from this eye to this eye, you see how sharp that is? Whereas this one kind of starts to dissipate. It's still sharp, but it's not as sharp. So the same thing, we're just starting to kind of blend this in. This is the type of thing where you might have to keep going at it for a bit, and just don't be afraid to blend a lot. You can always add more color, but it's kind of hard to take color off. So if you go a little bit too much and you're like, oh, I want it a little bit smokier, a little bit sharper, you can add shadow very easily. Okay, so next I'm going to pop on a pair of lashes. I'm going to be using the wispy lashes from Ardell. These are a really beat up pair. This is probably like the last time I'm going to be able to wear them. But I noticed that Demi always has very dramatic lashes, but they're dramatic in a kind of natural way. Like they're not fake looking, but they look like she just has these giant, beautiful, wispy lashes. And I feel like the Studio Effects wispies from Ardell are so gorgeous for this. So I'm just going to put my lash glue on these. So I'm just going to go in with a little bit of waterproof mascara and coat my lashes in that. Then I'm going to go in with a little bit of that matte white shade that we use to set the lid and just apply that very lightly to the brow bone. Okay, so now for applying our lashes, you're going to start with some tweezers. You're going to come in from up top. Then I like to secure the outer corner, then the inner corner, and just go around and press everything on to make sure you're good. You can kind of slide them around to adjust them if need be. But I feel like these wispies from Ardell are one of the quickest and easiest, most like beginner friendly lashes to apply. Their lash band isn't so loose that it's really hard to get them to shape to your eye, but they're also not so thick that you don't have inner corners, you know, popping off all over the place. Okay, now I'm taking a pair of eyelash curlers and just very, very gently making sure that they're situated on my whole eye. And with the lightest touch, I'm just squeezing together my natural lashes and the false lashes. This is going to make them appear more curled. It's also going to blend your falsies with your natural lashes. Okay, so now moving on to the face, I'm going to apply a little bit of a luminizing primer. This is the L'Oreal Magic Lumi Primer. This is going to add a little bit of extra dewiness underneath your foundation. Using a luminizing primer gives you that really nice, healthy, natural glow without too much moisturization and oiliness. Okay, now my favorite long wear foundation combo right now is the Rimmel Lasting Finish Foundation in the shade Ivory and the Wet n Wild Photo Focus Foundation in the shade Bronze Beige. I would be mixing these together regardless of colors though, because the formulas of these are so nice. I love the Rimmel Lasting Finish. It's probably the most long wearing foundation I have, but the Wet n Wild one photographs so incredibly well. If I had to go for one or the other, I would choose going for the Wet n Wild Photo Focus just because it photographs amazingly. It has no SPF, it's not going to give you any flashback, it's going to look so flawless on the skin. I'm going to be spraying my face with a little bit of setting spray. This is going to help make all of the layers that we put on top really lock into your skin. This is a really great trick to use setting spray before you even put your makeup on. So I'm going to take the Essence Keep It Perfect Makeup Fixing Spray. Awesome fixing spray from the drugstore. Fan myself off, make sure we're all nice and dry before we start applying the foundation. And I'm also going to apply a little bit of concealer to my nose. This is going to keep my nose from turning red throughout the night. Makeup tends to wear off of my nose very easily, so if you have a similar problem or you just want to have a little bit more full coverage on your nose, I would recommend taking a nice full coverage long wearing concealer. I'm using the Wet n Wild Come Correct Celebrity Concealer and just putting that on your nose and kind of around that area. Then I'm going to take a damp sponge to blend that in. When doing my makeup and others' makeup for prom, I noticed that everyone wants glam, kind of full coverage skin, but they don't want it to look cakey. And I feel like that's Demi's style as well. She always has very flawless looking skin, but it's not super cakey. I feel like these foundations do a really good job of doing that. And I also feel like applying not too much foundation, just one small layer is all you need, will get the job done and create that effect. You also want to make sure that you put some foundation blended down onto your neck and onto your ears, making sure that everything matches your tan if you have one. And a lot of times people are wearing dresses where you're going to see your chest and your shoulders and everything, so you really want to make sure that your face matches that. So match your foundation to your neck and your chest. Don't match it to your actual face shade. Okay, so for concealer, I'm going to be using the ColourPop No Filter Concealer and the Maybelline Fit Me. I love the ColourPop No Filter because it is so long wearing and it just looks really flawless and full coverage underneath the eyes. And the Maybelline Fit Me provides a little bit of hydration. I really like that one as well. So I feel like together, they're like the dynamic duo. So I'm just going to let my concealer set and dry for like 2 to 3 minutes. This is going to give you a more full coverage, more flawless look. I learned this from Jackie Aina. She's a queen here on YouTube. And honestly, when I really want my makeup to last, I don't blend my concealer out right away because, like I said, this is going to give you a more full coverage, more flawless, more long wearing look if you let the concealer kind of adhere first and then blend it out. Okie dokie, so the next thing we're going to do is contour with some creams. The reason why I'm doing this is because it's going to help your face makeup stay on so much better. Your powder's not going to wear off, and this is going to provide just an extra barrier. So I'm going to take the LA Girl Pro Conceal in the shade Medium Bisque, and I'm just going to very lightly start at the top of my ear and come about halfway down my face. I have a whole video on cream contouring, and while I do things a little bit differently now, all the information that I give in that video is still the same, and I still recommend cream contouring that way. And just the teeniest bit on where I would want to contour my nose, but like I said, just like a little tiny bit. I'm going to take my dewy highlight and contour sponge. You could totally keep using your regular face sponge, but I like taking a separate sponge to do this, that way you don't mix products. Make sure you're blending upwards and not downwards, dragging the product down. You want to have lifted cheekbones, not sagging cheekbones. This is also a great tip if you have a tan and you accidentally have a foundation shade that's a little too light. If you just use your creams to kind of darken it up, it will help so much. And then the last thing I'm going to do is add a little bit of liquid highlighter. This is the Makeup Revolution one. And I'm just going to put 3 dots on my cheek and then blend that out with my sponge. It's also going to enable you to use less powder and therefore give you a more natural look. Okay, now I'm going to blend out any creases that I had underneath my lower lash line and that sort of under eye area. Then I'm going to go in with the RCMA No Color Powder. This is my favorite powder. I'm going to take my damp sponge and just lightly press this into the sides of my nose and on my under eye area. Another good one from the drugstore is the Coty Airspun. It can give you a little bit of flashback if you use too much, so just be careful with that one, but it's still a good powder. Then I'm going to go down the center of my nose, and like I said, my nose gets oily. It's like the only part of my face that gets oily, and it also breaks up really easily, so I'm going to actually bake a little bit on the nose. All that means is I'm just going to let the powder actually sit on there for a bit. You also want to make sure that you set the makeup on your neck because that will still wear away and get kind of creasy and sticky, especially if it's hot out. So you want to make sure that you do set the foundation that you brought down onto your neck. Brush away that powder on my nose. Just let it set for like a minute or 2 minutes, not super long. So now I'm going to actually use my setting spray again to set down all this product. Set down all of our creams and that under eye powder. I'm going to go in with my Physicians Formula Butter Bronzer. I find that Demi doesn't typically do too structured contoured look. She typically goes for something a little bit softer or a little bit more bronzy. So I'm just going to go in and apply this bronzer. Because we did cream contour, you actually don't have to apply that much bronzer because you already have that darkness underneath, so you just need a little bit to set it. Then I'm going to go in with a little bit of an angled brush and just very, very lightly apply some of this to the sides of my nose. I'm not contouring my nose. You could totally go ahead and do that if you wanted to. I don't feel like doing that today. Now I noticed that Demi always has super pink, beautiful, flushed natural looking cheeks. So I'm going to go in with my Tarte Party blush from the drugstore. I also love the Milani Baked blushes. They're awesome. Makeup Revolution matte blushes are also awesome. So those are good drugstore alternatives. I'm just going to take this on a stipple brush and just start to buff this into our cheeks. I would typically go for like a nude blush or no blush at all, but I do want to capture that Demi-esque spirit. Okay, now I am going to go in with the Essence Pure Nude Highlighter and my face powder, and I'm going to mix these together to buff out my face. You could totally just use your face powder if you wanted to, but I like the Pure Nude Highlighter because it doesn't have any glitter in it or anything like that. It will add a little bit of extra glowiness to the face. And I'm going in and I'm just going to buff over my entire face. This is an old makeup artist trick makeup artists have been doing for a long time, and that's how they get their makeup to look so seamless and so flawless and almost like photoshopped. Whatever face powder you have lying around that doesn't give a lot of flashback or anything like that is a good option. Okay, so before we go into highlight, I'm going to start working on the lower lash line. The first thing I'm going to do is take an angled brush and just dip it into that black. And I'm going to just start this right where our line ends. I'm only going to bring it into like the center of my eye, maybe even a little bit less. This is where this whole like sharp edge is going to start to come together and actually look like it makes sense. Okay, now I'm going to go into that warm shade from the Huda palette and just start to very lightly buff out that black and start to drag that color into the inner corner area. I love a good smoky lash line, and Demi's looks always feature a really nice smoky lash line, so don't be afraid to smoke it out. Okay, now I'm going to mix together these two shades from the Milani palette and do the same thing, just lightly smoking everything out. And then lastly, going into those two dark shades from the Huda palette and, you guessed it, smoking it out. Then I'm just going to go back in with a little bit more of the black and just add a little bit more intensity. Now that we kind of buffed it out, we don't want to lose that blackness, but we also don't want it to be too intense. So I'm just going to add a little bit on top of that. And then just with no additional product on the brush, I'm just going to kind of smoke that out slightly so we're not too harsh. Okay, so now for highlighter, I'm going into my Ofra Rodeo Drive highlighter, which is my favorite. Any type of highlighter you want to use will do. I'm just going to take a brush and dip that into my highlight, tap it off, then I'm going to spray it with a little bit of MAC Fix Plus. You could use a face spray, your setting spray, whatever you want. And then I'm just going to apply that to the cheekbones. I do this to every single one of my prom clients because this will give you the most intense glow without it looking too powdery. And because we have that nice sharp line there, you want to make sure that you don't cover that up. You don't want to get highlighter in that sharp line. You want to stay below it. I also love the Ofra Rodeo Drive highlighter because it's so glossy. It's not super sparkly, and it really does give you a nice glow. Make sure you blend it into your blush so you don't just have like this stripe. I'm also going to put a little bit of that on the chin and the Cupid's bow. Not too much because I don't want to look too greasy. Then because I want a little bit of extra added glow, and I feel like Demi always has the most gorgeous glow going on, I'm going to go into my Pure, what is this? Brighten and Bronze cheek palette. I'm going to take this center shade right here, which is incredibly intense. So I'm not even going to wet it. And I'm just going to apply this to the tops of my cheekbones. Like, oh my god. Okay, then I'm going to take this highlighter and with a small brush, I'm just going to apply this to the center of my nose and the top tip of my nose very lightly. You don't want to have like a Rudolph nose. You just want to have a little bit. I feel like it looks really flattering in pictures and just in general. It's also going to give you the illusion of like a nose contour without actually having to bother with contouring your nose. I'm also going to go in and put that in my inner corners. I'm also going to take a little bit of that silver shade that we used before on our lids and put that in the inner corner as well to just make it not so golden. Okay, then lastly, we're going to finish it off with more setting spray. Also, another setting spray that I love is the Skindinavia, the makeup finishing spray in the bridal version. This is what I typically use on all of my clients. However, it's a bit more expensive, so that's why I've been using the Essence one, but this is also a great one. Now I'm going to go in while that's almost dry and just press everything in with the butt of my sponge And this is going to ensure that all the makeup is nice and secure and that all the powders are kind of nice and melted into the skin. Then I'm just going to finish it off with a little bit of MAC Fix Plus. You could totally skip this step if you are oily. I would recommend skipping this step. However, if you are dry and you just want to have a little bit of extra glow to your skin, grab a facial spray, grab some MAC Fix Plus. Okay, then last, we're going to take some more of that waterproof mascara and apply that to the lower lashes. Okay, so lastly for lips, I noticed that for the most part, Demi goes with a nude peachy kind of lip. So I'm going to start with the NYX Suede Matte Lip Liner in the shade Stockholm, which is a nice peachy shade. I love these NYX lip liners. They're so long wearing. Then I'm going to go in with the Lime Crime Velveteen in the shade Lulu. This is a beautiful peachy pink and it lasts for so long. So this is our finished look. I will be back in just a second for my outro. So yeah, this is the completed look, you guys. I absolutely love how this turned out. I feel like it's dramatic, it's smoky, it's kind of sexy, and it's totally Demi Lovato. I love her. I love this look, and I hope you guys do too. If you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. Let me know what other kinds of looks you would like to see for prom. The next look I'm going to be doing is going to be something a little bit more natural, a little bit more glowy, a little bit more warm tone. I will see you guys in my next video. Mwah. Bye.